first of all, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it and your support. Could you tell everybody your name and when you served and what branch you served in?
Well, my name is Larry Miller. I'm from near Lake Placid, New York. Came down to South Carolina in the fall of 2012. I joined the Marine Corps in 1969 and served through the summer of 1971. I was out about a year and joined the Army National Guard and did 20 years in the Army National Guard and retired in 1994 as a first sergeant.
Great story of service. When did you were in Vietnam for 1 year?
Yes, sir, I was.
From when to when?
From 1970 to 1971.
And what was the unit?
3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, and I was with Kilo Company. We were up by the DMZ, Quai Son. I was mainly working out of fire bases. They would clear the top of a hill. We would come in and secure it and make a military base out of the top of a hill. And when President Nixon was denying that we weren't there, we were running operations in Laos and Cambodia. I was 0311, which is basically infantry in the Marine Corps. I did that for a while, about 6-8 months. I got medevaced from the field, and after 2 weeks in the hospital ship in Da Nang, I was sitting on an LZ back in the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, LZ Ross, and an office pogue or an admin guy, we used to call them in the Marine Corps office pogues. There was about 5 of us sit and wait to go back out to our unit. And he said, "Is there anybody here that can type?" Well, I had taken typing in high school. It was mandatory. And I said, "Well, I can type, but what's the job?" He says, "You don't need to know. Come with me." Next thing I know, I'm working for the S4.
Okay. Let's go back for a minute to earlier, and before you got into service. Of course, you had to make a decision to join the service. Can you tell us how that happened?
Well, I graduated from high school in 1967. And of course, that's during the years that they were drafting. I was out and worked about a year and a half, and I got my draft notice from the Army. Well, there was no way I was going to join the Army because my dad was a Marine. So I joined the Marine Corps and went to basic training in 1969.
Of course, in that long of time of service, you had quite a career. Can you tell us a little bit about what you might call the toughest job you had in the service, either Marine or Army, and why that was?
That's a tough one. I had some hard times when I was in Vietnam. Like I said, I was 0311 infantry for a long time. And we worked in the jungle, we worked in the highlands. Humping every day was very hard, very tough. You know, it was, some days it was pouring down rain and you were soaking wet from rain. Other days you'd be soaking wet from sweat. And then at night, of course, wherever you stopped at night, you froze to death because the temperature would drop 20 to 30 degrees and you were either wet from sweat or wet from rain, and it just was tough. But I really think the toughest job I ever had was when I got out of the Marine Corps. Like I said, I joined the Army National Guard, and eventually I worked my way up to a first sergeant position. I always said to myself and tell people that a corporal in the Marine Corps is equal to a first sergeant in the Army, but that's just a little joke on my part. But being a first sergeant, we were part of the roundout for the 10th Mountain. We were the roundout brigade, and when I first joined the Army National Guard, it was pretty lax. Lax on discipline, lax on esprit de corps, appearance, that kind of thing. Well, when the 10th Mountain came in, everything changed. And by then I was a first sergeant. So I had to take some ragtag troops and bring everything up to par. It was satisfying, but it was tough.
Okay. Speaking of first sergeants, one of the things I've found in the military is that you make a lot of great connections with friends and role models and so forth. Is there any particular military brother or sister, thinking back on your service, that you can recall that was made a particularly strong impact on you, and why?
Well, when I got out of the field in the Marine Corps, ended up with that job working for the S4, I started off being what they call a MARS clerk. And it was Marine Corps Automated Readiness and Evaluation System. I was the one responsible. We would get reports in from the line units and all the units of casualties, equipment down, equipment up, and that went to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the individual I worked for was a captain by the name of Mo Fletcher.
Fletcher.
Yes, sir. He was a terrific guy. He was the type of leader that never asked you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. And he just was, you know, we had our limits, but I mean, we used to play around at night. You know, a lot of times he loved to smoke a cigar.
Okay.
And I would, once in a while, I'd put his captain bars on, put my feet up on his desk, and pretend I was smoking the cigar. Yeah, good guy.
Well, thinking of guys like that and maybe what he taught you and other people in the military taught you, would you say there's anything particular in your military service and experience that helped you most in later life?
I think being a first sergeant. I had to,
because you were a leader as a first sergeant.
I was a leader as a first sergeant, and we were part of the 10th Mountain. So the 10th Mountain had a different philosophy at that time. When I first started as a first sergeant, he was totally admin. Bullets and beans, he helped the supply, brought the stuff to the troops. When the 10th Mountain took over, a first sergeant's job changed. He was in the field with his troops all the time. I had a lot of young troops, fresh from high school, fresh from college, new to the military experience, and I ended up being father, mother, brother, sister.
Everything rolled into one.
Everything into one. It was a tough role to play. I mean, because in your own life, you have your own issues, and now you're helping those. I mean, I never forget one time we left Fort Drum after over 2 weeks of training, got back, and I had just gotten home. My wife and I had unpacked, and we decided to go out for supper. I got a phone call from one of my troops, and basically the nuts and bolts were his wife had cheated on him when he left, and he was devastated. He was young, in his early 20s. He didn't know what to do. I ended up inviting them to come out to my house, him and his wife. Basically kicked my wife and kids out of the house and was a marital counselor.
Had to do that too.
Yeah, we did everything. Yeah.
Speaking of responsibilities like that as a first sergeant, and the fact that this was a young person, a young service member that was in that situation. Today, you know, one of the things that we try to do is encourage young people to serve. So what would you tell a young person today about why military service might be a good option for them?
Well, first of all, my belief is the United States of America should have never eliminated the draft. And why I say that is because having to do some form of federal service teaches a young person how to think for themselves, build confidence, respect, and most of all, appreciate the country that you live in. I think part of the problem today is young people don't know what it's like to go to third world countries and see how people live.
Spoiled maybe from
yes. And I really think that patriotism and God and country, we're losing that, and I think the young person of today needs that. They need the discipline. They need to be put on the right road so that they make them better people, better leaders.
They'll have pride for that the rest of their life. Look at the pride you have, our fellow veterans have. So.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, and the other thing that it teaches them is it helps them mature.
Yes.
You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life.
Yes.
And after I got out and came home and appreciated my country, I had decided that I was going to be a police officer. Well, I did that for a couple years, couldn't make any money. Back then, police only made $70 a week, you know, local police departments. I ended up, long story short, working 33 years for the largest utility in New York State and worked as a lineman.
Well, you've got a lot of great things in your life and your success, and we really appreciate your service to the country. And Larry, thanks so much for doing this interview here today.
Thank you.